Before we get too deep into something, it's April 2nd, right?
Yeah.
And yesterday, you made a Twitter post. Daryl, how did that go over at MRN?
It was great.
So what did you do?
Yesterday, because it's April Fool's, my favorite day of the year, I made a post of a helmet, and I said, free helmet. All you got to do to enter win is call or text this number, and I put Tyler Burnett's number on our Twitter. And, dude, it blew up, like, The Godfather. Like, pretty much every major person at MRN got a hold of it and just started tweeting it out. And they all got big followers. So, like, he got a ton of messages and a ton of calls.
Did he?
Pretty funny.
Did he freak out over there?
Oh, yeah, he was mad.
Yeah, it was great.
He was not happy about it. I wasn't even there. I wasn't in the office, but he got pretty pissed.
Do you know Tyler Burnett?
No.
So he does a podcast called Rip the Fence with Dylan Welch. And now he's like...
I've heard of that. Yeah,
he is threatening that they have more listeners and that I'm going to get payback and all that. Like, he's doing a lot of stuff. But he said he got a lot of, like, parents and stuff sending, like, their kids go-karts and, like, this opportunity is going to be great for my kid and all this.
Oh,
so,
you ruined their life.
Oh, yeah. So I feel bad now. So last night I had Tyler make a video explaining what happened. And tomorrow for Win It Wednesday, we're actually gonna give away a free paint job. So I'm gonna make it right.
That's
so
good.
Hopefully that's good karma, and I won't get a payback from Tyler.
What would you do, Brandon?
Well, if I was one that actually called about the helmet.
Well, on both ends.
Did you call?
Oh, no, I didn't call. I probably should have.
You got a free helmet.
Well, that would have worked out well, but you already have one of my helmets that I'm waiting on to get painted.
True.
So, yeah, so I'd
He's
probably be a
not
little
racing
fired
every
up,
week. It's okay.
I know.
It's not a big deal. What's he going to do, look at it on his living room floor?
I'm like halfway retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He made a nice Instagram post about them the other day.
He did.
I did. I gave your competition a little love, but I had to show the transition of who I have do my helmets,
That's
which
okay.
ultimately
There's
they rest in your
hands.
hands.
There's no hate there. He did good. They're good-looking helmets.
Yeah, they're all right.
The helmet that I'll always remember you having is the black helmet with the orange tape drop.
Oh, when I was late model
UARA
racing.
days.
Yeah, Skip used to help me on my late models back in 2008, 2009, and we won some races. We had a little
That
fun
was
there.
a damn good time.
Couldn't afford good help.
No.
It was free help.
Free help.
Well, we won, so we must have been doing something right.
Quick Nick.
Yeah, Quick Nick.
His crew chief now is the car chief for Chase Briscoe on the 98 at Stewart Haas. He's good. He was always good.
He's very good.
You started a lot of guys out in their beginnings.
Yeah, and then they leave me behind.
That's
and here
nice
I am,
of them.
sitting on the couch.
That's just racing, man.
Yeah.
Literally on the couch.
On the couch.
What'd you do today? You're
Well, I woke
you barely made it up here because you have a real job.
Well,
doing real big
I have a couple different jobs, but yeah, this morning I was down at the NASCAR building shooting a race for K&N. We did the Irwindale race, so that was really exciting. Trevor Huddleston and Tanner Gray put on a really good show. You know Tanner Gray pretty well. He's a good kid.
I do.
So excited to see him running well. And, yeah, it was fun. We had a good time. Hopefully all the fans enjoy it because it was I put my heart and soul into it, so hopefully it was a good broadcast.
So you just do the voiceover, like, after the race?
Yeah, we do it after the race. It's a little touchy subject. Like, we try to make it feel as if we are there, and I feel like we do a good job at that, making sure that the fans are excited about it and all that. But NBC does a good job with that, and then also there's fans' choices come on and they're broadcasting all the races live, so you can kind of go back and watch a little bit of film there if you're not actually at the race, and then really just try to bring a good broadcast to all the fans. So it's been a good learning experience for me. Obviously my dad has a huge background in broadcasting, and they do such a good job on Fox, but I can remember going in there for my first time with Jeff Burton. He actually got me hooked up with NBC to do some of those races, and I was terrible. My first one was a doubleheader at Salt Lake City, Utah, where everyone was spread out, nothing was really going on, and it was difficult, man. It's hard to know when they're going to throw it to a pit road reporter, when you're going to get it back, when you're going to breaks. There's a little countdown and all that, so it's there's a lot more that goes into it than what people see sitting at home.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing a race live. Like, I would be terrible at it. Because you think it's, like, easy, and you give Darrell Waltrip a bunch of crap and stuff on TV for just saying stuff. But I'm sure,
Right.
like, once the cars get spread out, and you're not following every little story, I'm sure it's like way hard to figure out stuff to say.
Latart was here the other day, and he said it was easy, but he's a good talker.
Yeah, he can talk about anything, though.
He can carry on a good conversation, and Steve and I have talked a little bit, like both of us agree, we feel like the tape races are a little bit harder than the live stuff. I've never done, like, live races, but just having a conversation with him, I feel as if it might be a little easier because you don't have an option. Like, you're rolling, and you're just talking about what you're looking at. The tape races, you're going off of a monitor, and that's it. So if they're jumping around, you got to go from talking about the first place battle with Tanner Gray and Trevor Huddleston, so to speak, to the 8th place guy that just spun out and you don't even know that it's coming.
That would be harder.
It jumps around a little bit. So there's pluses and minuses to both.
And you're not like looking at the race out the window.
That's right.
You have exactly what the cameras see.
Do they give you a retry on that at all, or no?
Yeah, you can go back and if you don't like something that you said, you
only
can.
One time.
I wonder what the rules are.
If we only did one retry or one, if you took it back and tried it again, I would struggle, and they probably wouldn't have me come back because I made quite a few mistakes. But it's fun, man. It's I think it's important to try different things in racing, especially with where motorsports has gone. It's become such a business, so it's if you want to stick around, you got to adapt and try different things, and that's something that I'm passionate about, and I have a lot of fun with it, so it's cool.
That's something that you've done a great job at too, because I've known you now for over a decade, right? I think the first time when I started hanging out with you, I remember going to the Point Club for dinner, and when I started hanging out with you, I didn't own a collared shirt, so I had to borrow yours to go to dinner. That's how long
it was easy for you to fit into. I'm a little bigger.
Now I'm at Penske. Now you have to wear collared shirts all the time, so it's definitely been a long time. But that's something that you've done well with from the time I met you, just pretty much being only passionate about driving to learning more about your race car and working on them, getting in the TV stuff, and now being a mentor for Noah and Cole and younger kids coming up. And it's something that I look at that's kind of come full circle, because a lot of people don't know that you had a mentor when you were, Larry Mack had Daniel Quinn helping you out. So I feel like you know what people are looking for in that, because you were in that position, which doesn't feel like long ago.
Yeah.
And you helped these kids. I've seen what you've done with Noah, who's a bit of a handful, and you've really been able to pull him back and make him focus and watch film and win some of these really tough races.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a crazy journey, just like you said, sitting here with you and knowing our past, and like we were just talking about, growing up late model racing and all that, and you helped me on that stuff. It's a crazy journey, man, and I think the biggest thing is it's never, you have a plan in your head. It's easy to sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to be the next Jimmy Johnson, or I'm going to go out there and win all these cup races, and I'm set. But, life throws you a bunch of different curveballs, and you just got to react. And I feel like I've had good people around me, and I feel like I've done a good job adapting to that. There's probably a lot of things I would have done a little differently, but ultimately, like Corey LaJoy and I talk, we're all buddies, and I'm not going to give up on the racing part of it. It's just making the most out of my time right now while the funding's not there to be able to do something.
Well, and you made, at Daytona this year in the ARCA race, you made a lot of those guys, look like rookies on that last restart. And that's what I feel like, watching you and knowing what I go through, stepping away and then getting, watching from afar for a little bit and not racing every week and then getting back in the car. It looks like it helps you excel.
Yeah.
Because you see a bigger picture. And I'll tell you what, that last restart at Daytona was worth the price of admission alone, even though Todd Gillen wrecked you.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah.
Going straight down the backstretch, he wrecked you.
I ran out of talent.
But that was worth the price of admission in itself. So, and going to a race like Snowball Derby and running well and doing stuff like that, there's no doubt that you can do it. But golly, finding these opportunities to do it more and more is so challenging.
It's hard, man. I we've had this discussion so many times, and not to put such a negative light on where our sport's at, but it's the one I figured out. It's the one thing that you put as much heart and effort and drive into what you're doing and passion, and even like you mentioned, even when you're taking a step back and when you're at the racetrack, and with me helping Noah Gregson over at JRM every single weekend, I really try to practice what I preach, first off, but second of all, when you're there applying yourself. I think a lot of these young racers, they go to the racetrack, they're watching a race, but they're really not processing what's going on. And what I've tried to do over the last couple of years, and really when we started over at KBM on the truck stuff, is really feeding off of Marcus Richmond, feeding off of Rudy Fugle, and taking every lesson that Noah was going through and some of those younger guys, and looking in the mirror and going, how can I apply this to a Canaan race? How can I apply it to an ARCA race? And one of the frustrating things about it is I think a lot of these young guys don't do it. They keep showing up and hoping, well, I should win. I want to win. It's like, it's easy to want to win. That's every kid's dream, is to go to victory lane. But ultimately, what are you doing about it Monday through Friday to get there? So I've been trying to do a good job with that and make the most of my opportunities. But yeah, it's hard, man. Cash is king, and that's what it comes down to, unfortunately. So
I got on Priest last week asking him how he, like, because he's one of the guys that has done really well for himself on a limited budget, and I asked him, how he would go about these teams looking at where do you make a mix? Like, where do you change it to where you want the guy with talent over the guy with money? And it's a hard thing to get through. But if you listen to the Dale Jr. download they did yesterday with Steve Phelps, it seems like they have great ideas, and it's stuff that you, myself, Corey, and Coleman have kind of been benching racing about for the last 5-10 years, and it seems like they're starting to see the bigger picture, and that's promising. But yeah, racing's a tough thing. We talk about that often on here.
It's a broken record on here.
It is.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's fine.
Because it's a big topic.
It needs to get out there. Yeah. So.
Well, I think everybody you have on here, everyone has a little bit. Probably the stories are a lot of the same, especially from racers, whether it's Ryan Priest or myself or Corey or even you guys. Everyone has a background, but there's a little bit twist on the story as to what that person's roadmap is trying to get to Sundays, which is the ultimate goal. I've thought a lot about, my driving goals, even though I have a full-time job working with Noah. I have some other things going on, commentating, stuff like that. But, man, I tell a lot of people, like I said earlier, it's easy to want to be a cup champion. Like, it's easy to just sit on your couch or lay in bed and just want that as a driver or as a competitor. But, man, how cool would it be to just be a Johnny Sauter, be a Matt Crafton, be Elliott Sadler? Like, I feel like our sport, we need more of those guys. We push all day long. Names are made here. Development. And that's great. But those series wouldn't be squat without those guys to keep those younger guys accountable and to make them better. So that's a big passion of mine, and hopefully one day it comes true, but time will tell.
Yeah. Whoa, wait.
Oh, sorry.
Easy.
I'm a Yankee. I talk over people.
I know, every day. Are you pumped to be back in the car, Dega?
Yeah, so we got Bristol in the K&N car this weekend, so I'm excited about that. Hopefully it will be pretty good. I mean, we have a little bit smaller of a team, but we make it work, and we run well. We run up front. Bruce Cook, my crew chief, is unbelievable to work with. He's taught me so much, a lot like I was talking about with the crew chiefs over at KBM and even at JRM. So it's really cool to work with him. He pushes me to be better. Sometimes as the veteran in those series, it's easy to get out and just think you got these kids licked, but he really pushes me on and off the track, so that's good. And then
he's a Jersey guy too.
He's a Jersey guy. He's tough.
Oh, that's why.
He's tough.
You won Talladega with Rhett.
Yeah, I won.
Another Jersey guy.
Apparently, I got something for the Jerseyans. Yeah, is that what it's called? Jersey.
I don't.
Jerseyans.
You've been called
Jerseyans?
worse. Most people call people from New Jersey worse.
We'll
than
stick
that,
with
so
Jerseyans for the show.
Fine.
Yeah. So Talladega, it's awesome, man. It's I'll never forget that win, especially the moment my dad reached his head in the window. I remember seeing Skip on pit road. And
I think I was the first one.
Yeah, he come up to me, and we were pumped up. It was cool to kind of share that moment. And but seeing my dad in Victory Lane, being that's his hometown, he's from Birmingham, Alabama, and just to see how excited he was, it's a lot of people see Dad, and he's that guy on television that everybody feels like they can walk up and talk to, but he's a pretty tough guy. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, but he's a pretty tough man, and just to have that moment with him in Victory Lane when he stuck his head in there, and I grabbed him by the back of his neck, and it was just really cool. So you never know what happens in Talladega. We go down there in a couple weeks with our KBR development car, and really looking forward to that. But you can end up on your lid, or you can end up waving the checkered flag at the end of it. So we'll just have to, time will tell, wait and see what happens.
Within the last lap, it's rough.
Yeah.
Just don't run out of gas.
Yeah.
Just don't do that.
So Greg always reminds me that when I ran out of fuel in 2012 at Daytona, that it was his first. Was it your first time spotting?
I think it was my second time spotting at Daytona.
Yeah. Well, so I don't think I've ever told you this, but whoever lets you spot for like your second time spotting, they are a brave soul.
Terrible idea.
Who was it?
It's ARCA, dude.
Who was it?
Whoever the second 99 car was at the time. I helped out Busher's team quite a bit back then.
Brandon.
I don't remember.
Yeah, that's bad that you don't remember who you're spotting for.
That's fine.
But yeah, we ran out of fuel, and I just stayed in the middle of the racetrack because I was trying to get Gerhardt to hit me across the line, which was not a good idea. And we wrecked like hell. We wrecked everybody. And
did you get across the line?
I finished like 11th or
You're
something.
In the four car.
I was in the
there,
4 for
yeah.
Turner and working with Mark Rett. And man, that car was so strong. That was one of the times that everybody says that super speedway racing is easy. It's not easy. There's a lot going on, but that car was perfect. I mean, I just rode around up front, kind of biding my time. I ended up running out of fuel. We wrecked like hell. And then I had about 2 or 3 people wanting to whoop my tail in the Info Care Center, so that was
I didn't know
exciting.
you then, so I was just like, who is this kid that just trashed the field?
Larry's boy.
Yeah, Larry's boy.
It's crazy how you think when you're driving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're like, now you look back at it and you're like, that is a total irrational thought to stay in the middle of the track and try to get somebody that's going 40 miles an hour faster than me push me. But when you're in the car, you're like, I'm getting to the line.
Yeah.
I don't care what I got to do.
That's all you think about. I mean, you've driven a lot of stuff, and your adrenaline gets pumping, and you just don't think at all. And then looking back on it, it's like, man, I might have made a mistake there and pissed off a lot of people. But I mean, ultimately, especially when you're part-time racing, all of us can attest to this. You gotta go make it happen. I mean, I think, when I went and drove for Bill McAnally in 2014, I went out there and ran the West deal, and I spent the whole year wasting everybody's time just being like, man, I wish I was racing back out east. I feel like I should be in a truck ride. Poor old me. And it was a terrible year. I think I think we had a couple seconds, couple thirds. But that mentality, man, you got to make a shift. Like, you're there on kill mode every single weekend. And I'm glad that happened to me because when I went into 2015, we built a new car out here at my dad's shop. We shipped it out to McAnally's out west and went and made it happen. But it's crazy as drivers, you have to show up, be ready to go. And it's easy to say that. It's easy to tweet about it. It's easy to do this, do that, say you're putting all this work in, but you got to do it. And once you make that transition, it's game on. So that's kind of what's helped me the last couple of years running these part-time races, as hard as that is, just having the right mindset, going to work and showing up and getting the job done whenever you get there.
I'm sure it's a lot easier doing that because you have way more time to prepare and, be ready for that race. When you start doing it every weekend and, it gets so repetitive, you kind of forget what track you're at. And
There's pros and cons to both, right? If you're working every week and you have a bigger notebook and you know what your car wants, but then again, like he said, you have a different mindset when you're just showing up trying to win too. But I don't think at that level, once you get to those levels, there's nothing easy. There's no if you come every week, it's not easy, and if you show up part time, it's not easy. Both of them are challenging, but yeah, I mean, I think you've done a great job with it, and I'm excited to watch Talladega. What other races do you have this year lined up?
I got Talladega. I think in the K&N car with Visconti, I got maybe both Loudons. There's a second Bristol this year, which is really cool that the series is putting that on. For the longest time, we always went there one time, and that was it. So we're going to go back in the fall with trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. I think I'm going to run the Charlotte ARCA race, maybe Michigan. There's some stuff going on. Some guys are wanting to get involved with that program, which is good.
That team is based out of Michigan, right?
They're based out of Michigan right now. So that team, KBR Development, I got to know Mike Bursley, the guy that owns it. I ran his late model at the Snowball Derby back in, I guess, 2017. We became good buddies and started talking, and he wanted to start building some ARCA cars for Carson Hocevar that runs their short track stuff. And man, it's cool. Like, as much as we talk about, the business side of the sport and it takes funding to go race, like, I count my blessings every single day that guys like Mike Bursley and John Visconti, they just let me show up and race. Like, how cool is that? So really trying to take advantage of that and really take care of the owners too. Like, if there's an opportunity for Mike to run a kid in his car that comes with sponsorship or funding, as much as I want to race, I want to see him survive. We don't need to run the guy broke. So been working with him a little bit on the side, phone calls at night, early in the morning when we're not doing stuff for Noah, just trying to keep the train on the track, for lack of better terms, with that deal. So it's been fun, man, and it's just good to be able to still kind of keep my name in the hat a little bit, and hopefully, you never know down the road, try to be in a position that like Corey's in, or hell, even Ryan Priest. So you just got to stay relevant and keep digging it out.
You got him a win last year, right?
Yeah,
like pretty early on.
With Visconti, yeah, we ran 6 or 7 K&N races, and we ended up winning Loudon. That was really cool.
That guy was fired up. He is as much of a he's Long Island, right? Like a Long Island Yankee as you can be.
He's wide open, man. He's given me a really good shot at running that car, and to look back on Facebook and all that and look at their reaction, like, I think that was the coolest part of that win is, like, we know we're getting outspent. We know we're out-peopled, we're outnumbered. But really, Bruce and I really put our heads together and try to squeeze as much as we can out of our cars. Just really paying attention to what other people are doing. I mean, hell, I'll kind of walk around the garage area as much as I can, see how much skew guys are running and things like that, and just really kind of lean on Bruce and push him to be as aggressive as we can be to get the most out of our cars. So. And it's good, too, like Tim Fedewa, he comes in spots for me, and that helps a lot. Obviously him working with Kevin on the Cup side, so he's able to take little things away from that and apply it to whenever he's spotting for me at a companion race. So, but yeah, to get John and his wife Marie a win last year, I'll be honest, at the start of the year when we just had our little cars sitting there and we didn't have any front springs or rear springs, I'm like, I don't see how this is going to work.
It's going to be rough.
But Bruce, he's made it happen, man. Like, I'm just kind of holding the wheel, but he's done a really good job with that stuff.
Nice.
I met that John, the car owner, in Newark Airport. Like, I don't know when it was. I was flying back and forth working on the indoor car, and he's like, Ryan Flores, right? I'm like, yeah, hey, man. He's like, oh, Brandon McReynolds. He talks real fast.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. I got to go. I'm going to miss my flight. And he, like, sprints.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that was great. And he's like, his wife, like, oh, it's Ryan Flores. She's like, who the hell is that?
Yeah, we got to go.
Like, who the hell's that guy? Like,
Yeah.
So I stop, get a snack, and then walk, and we're on the same flight. And we got like 40 minutes. So he's like such a Yankee, always in a rush. He's like sitting there. I'm like, oh man, you're good, you made it.
They're probably yelling too.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. Like the K&N deal, man. It's weird. Like, obviously the car count, like Skip remembers, and you do too, Greg. Like, just from, I can remember running in 2000. 10, I guess, 11, 12, 13. Dude, the car counts were outrageous. And you had all the guys that are, other than like Harvick and Kyle and some of those guys, basically everyone you see in Cup now was running K&N back then. And it was tough. But the thing, a lot of people are knocking the K&N series right now because the car count's way down. I'll be honest, some of the drivers probably should have spent another year in late models, but the equipment, you walk down through the garage area, there might only be 19 cars, but they're all beautiful built race cars. Like, I heard Johnny Sauter talking the other day on the radio and about the truck series and where they're at. And sure, some of the drivers are a little hit or miss, but ultimately, like, you got to applaud the series for the equipment that's showing up. And that's really how you set your competition. Like, even though some of these guys are inexperienced, like, if they hop in a David Gilliland car, they're going to haul the mail.
Yeah.
And they're going to be somebody you got to beat regardless of how good or bad the driver is, because the equipment is second to none. So, but at the same time, it's a good series because it's cool for John Visconti to be able to come down from Staten Island. He owned a modified up there, be able to sell that, come down here, buy a K&N car from Tommy Baldwin and go race with a couple part-time people. So it's, the series is, in a weird spot right now. I know they're combining with ARCA for next year, so that's going to be a good thing. But ultimately, like, it's just kudos to NASCAR for keeping it around. That way, guys like John can still get involved in the sport.
Yeah, it's cool to see, like, a team that's not here in Mooresville or Concord or something come down and race against a Joe Gibbs team or, basically a Cup team. Like what you're saying. It's crazy. These cars are nice.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll tell you what was funny for us growing up. And something that was, and you can attest to this, talking about, racing K&N and the way that you used to do it, and Corey would do it at the shop, and then the UARA days where all of our friends, except for Logano, because he was racing
he was Cup
by that
racing,
point, but everybody would be racing against each other. and then Mondays we would have a Bible study at LaJoy's shop.
Yeah.
And it was funny to see what happened from the weekend and how people acted on Monday at the shop. So like I remember one time they were racing for a win at Dover. You, Corey, and Darrell Wallace.
Yeah.
And
mostly me and Corey.
Yeah. Corey stuck you in the fence.
Yeah.
It ripped his bumper cover off.
Yeah.
And it was hanging. They were going to black flag him. Caution came out. He had Brandon Godovic drove up and took it off under caution. Darrell Wallace lost his mind.
Because he was points racing against Corey, so he was freaking out.
And then the next day, Corey ended up winning, and
Larry
pissed. Mack was fired up. You were pissed.
Yeah.
Randy was like, who cares? It was like so weird. It was like all the emotions. And then the next day, when Darrell showed up to Bible study there, and he just was the most mad person I've ever seen. Sitting there talking about Jesus. He was just,
it was probably good that he came and came to Bible study to kind of help the elephant in the room, but it was crazy. I'll never forget that. We got out of the car, and I remember walking to the NASCAR lady came and grabbed me, and we had to go down to the media center, and I knew that Darrell ended up finishing second. It ripped my left front fender off, so I'm all pissed off. Get out of the car, I'm cussing, I'm freaking out. And she comes and grabs me, and she's like, I got to get Darrell Wallace. And I'm like, well, where's he at? And I figured he'd be pumped up because us two morons about wrecked each other, and he ended up finishing second. So it was a good day for him because he really, if I remember right, he was probably about a straightaway behind us, half a straightaway back.
You two were checked out.
Yeah, we had it. It come down to Corey and I. I went to the top. He kind of chopped me, put me up towards the fence, and it just peeled my left front open like a can opener, and it ripped his bumper cover off, which didn't really affect him a whole lot. But I look over, and Darrell is leaned up against the wall, and he's throwing water bottles and flipping out, and he goes in there, and they're interviewing us, and he's going on and on about rules and this and that, and I'm looking at him like, what the hell? Like, you didn't even have a shot at winning the race. But that's just how Darrell is. He's a fiery guy, and we all love him, and that's what happens, man. When you're putting it all on the line, it frustrates you. And Corey, that is the most upset I've been with Corey. I remember I'd come up to him after Tech, and I grabbed him by his shirt, and I was all fired up, which he could whoop my ass anyway, so it didn't really matter. But man, he was like, man, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were there, and this and that. I talked to a spotter, Tyler Green, the next day, and he's like, I was going outside. So, but it was cool. It's cool to have those moments with your buddies. It sucks in that moment, but to be able to look back on them right now and just really appreciate that we've all been able to get over those times and still be really good friends is something that's hard to trade out on.
He was best man at your wedding, right? So
he was, yeah.
What is this? He told a story there when you guys wrecked each other, and then
Concord. Concord.
Yeah,
that was awkward.
There's still a lot of different opinions on how that all went down. The
good thing is he's not here, so you get your side. No,
Yeah.
I was traveling,
Yeah.
but I got the phone calls.
I've only heard Corey's side of this.
So we were young. It was in 2008. We were running UARA, and the field was loaded down. It was my first late model race. Corey's maybe third or fourth.
UARA is now the car store.
Yes.
Right.
But it was the biggest late model tour in the Southeast at the time.
Yeah, basically when Hooters Pro Cup left and shut down, UARA kind of took its place. So, I mean, you would have anywhere from the start of the year, you'd have 40 to 50 cars show up. Midpoint of the year, you'd have like 30. So it was pretty loaded. Dale Jr. had 3 cars back then. I mean, it was stout. So,
Dillon Brothers, there was a lot of
Matt McCall, who crew chief's Kurt now. So it was pretty stacked. And so anyway, we went to Concord for the first race of the year. Neither one of us knew what we were doing. We're just out there standing on the gas, hoping to make lap time. And we qualified, I think, 11th and 12th. And we had a restart about 50 laps in. Randy's spotting for Corey. My dad's spotting for me, which is probably a terrible combination for both of us.
I was going to say, what a bad idea on both your parts.
Yeah, so Corey, he used to struggle really bad on restarts all the time. And he spun his tires. I kind of hit him to get him going. He spun them again. So we get to the line, and I just duck out and go to the bottom because we had another, 1,000 feet down to turn 1 or so. And here he come down to the bottom, chop me off. We go up in the fence. He backs it in and Widowmakers it, hits it sideways, and I basically hit it head on. And it was big. So anyway, but before the race, I was supposed to go stay the night at Corey's house and then go to church with him the next day. And so after the race was over, even though I wrecked him, I was just like, so I still got my bag. Am I coming over? Like, car's tore up, but whatever. And I get to Randy LaJoy's shop, and they're unloading this car on casters. It's killed. And Randy is just dog cussing me. And I'm like, this is the worst sleepover or hanging out with my buddy event I've ever had in my entire life. I'll forever regret going over there that night, but I think it kind of helped the healing process a little bit quicker.
Yeah,
so.
you got to hit it out head on, man.
That's right.
The only time Randy had a worse freak out was that time we went to Concord with Beaver Dragon in that Pro Challenge car.
Man.
And Beaver Dragon was so fat and out of shape that by about lap 15 he drove in the fence and was just hanging on for dear life.
Yeah.
And Randy was mad as it was, and Beaver was so distraught and so just hanging on for dear life that at the end of the race he drove in and didn't see the scale pads that the Pro Challenge guys had set up and just drove through all of them and ripped everything. So Randy had to pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
Randy just threw stuff in the trailer, didn't even strap it down. And was it you or Steve-O that had to ride in the – did you have to ride in the –
That was Steve-O.
Okay, he didn't have to ride in the truck, but Steve-O said that – well, you, me, and Corey rode together.
Yeah.
And Steve-O said that Randy did not stop yelling at Beaver the whole way home.
I tell you what, Randy, you go through the garage area, you grow up in the sport, and you get to meet a lot of different people, and people give you a hard time, or, you do something, and people stay on your case for a month or so. I tell everyone all the time, if they think they're pissing me off or getting under my skin, I'm like, you don't know Randy LaJoy.
Yeah.
I grew up with that man basically from the time I was in diapers till now, and there is nothing that anybody can do that'll phase you. So Randy, he's a rock star, man. It's so cool to be around him, and he's taught me a lot about racing as well. And I know he's been hard on Corey, and it definitely pays off in the long run. So
yeah,
you're definitely gonna get his unfiltered opinion.
We need to have him on.
You need to have Randy on this show.
Oh my God, you got to get the sensor ready.
Should we have the LaJoy family, like
no,
Beaver
it's too
Dragon?
much.
No.
It just
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have enough microphones either, so.
Well, I'm just saying. Beaver Dragon is Casey LaJoy, by the way.
Yes.
If you don't know.
That's
Corey's younger brother.
Yeah, he's on. If you watch Speed 51, he's the guy.
He's not a race car driver anymore.
No,
No.
probably for the best.
Oh, Wheels. He's had a bunch of different nicknames. He's had Wheels. He's had another one I can't talk about, and then Beaver Dragon. So
Beaver Dragon came at Hickory that day.
from a
did
Pro
not?
Challenge test. He also fell out of the seat there.
At a test.
Yeah, like
He
probably
started
20 laps
crying.
in.
He was too tired. He couldn't get out of the car or something, right?
Yeah, he had his Hans on, and he had fallen out of the seat. He got he just got really hot, and he was wore out. So he tries to get out of the car, and the headrest was in the way, and the windows were so small. And I remember he's just like bucking like a rhino. He's like, "Get me out of this thing! Get me out of this thing!" And Randy's just staring at him like, "Son, gain control." And he gets out of this thing and he flops out on the back of the trailer, and Randy's just like spraying him with water, and he's like, "What's the matter, you Beaver Dragon?" So ever since then, that's been it's stuck, and that's Beaver's or Casey LaJoy's nickname. So
that's funny.
But there is a real guy named Beaver Dragon that Randy used to.
Brothers, Beaver and
Beaver
Bobby.
and Bobby Dragon.
Yeah,
but
they ran in the Busch North Series against Randy, so it all kind of goes full circle. But it's cool.
yeah.
Easy enough.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's old Larry Mack with the old broadcasting this year?
He's doing good, man.
He's still digging.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like when he called me over the winter and said that he was going to be coming off the road. He was going to go to Daytona and maybe Martinsville, but other than that, he was going to be in their studio. And I was a little worried about Pops because he's been going in that garage area, and Skip knows he's seen him in the garage area. He's normally one of the first ones in there and one of the last ones to leave whenever he can, and he's not doing TV, but. Man, they keep him busy. He's been wide open. I think he's really enjoying kind of having his own little project that he can strategize and keep up with it, and that's what he's into, man. He's a crew chief for a long time, so I know he enjoys that.
The
side
thing
of
I
things.
like about him being in the booth and being on TV when you watch a race is it's one, very informative because he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And two, it's relevant because there's a lot of very smart older guys that have been in the sport, but they just see it how they saw it.
Right.
20 years ago.
That's
and
right.
your dad is down in the garage. You don't see a lot of those guys come out of the booth and go down to the actual garage and talk to people, and you see him all the time. So
yeah, for sure. No, he puts a lot of work into it. It's funny, you'll walk up in his motorhome, or he's trying to sell it now, but you'd walk up in there and he'd have papers all over the place, and it's like, what are you doing, man? And he's just getting ready for shows.
He's still a crew chief.
Yeah,
Man.
he's got notes on everybody, what people's cars are doing, what Chad Knaus and Hendrick and those guys are trying to do to make their cars better, he's on top of it. I really think if he wanted to, I might be biased being his kid, but I think he'd be a really good competition director somewhere. Go back. He's really good with people, getting people organized. He's one of the most organized people I've ever been around. He's the type of guy, if you walk in his office and his pen was straight and you pick his pen up and use it and sign it and just lay it right back down where you thought it was, he's going to move it. He's going to make sure it's perfect. So I applaud him for that, but it's definitely something. The pen thing doesn't keep me up at night, but it definitely does him. So he's a perfectionist for sure.
I would have never thought that. I don't know him as well as you guys do, but
how old were you when he stopped crew chiefing?
I would have been. So his last year with Skinner was 2000. So I'd have been.
So you were young.
I was
10, 9, 10.
Because I wonder,
yeah.
I wonder how hard it is, and people don't see it, to be a crew chief. And we touched on it a little bit with Steve Letarte, but to be a crew chief and have a family, especially a young family, I could only imagine, because you have to be so tapped in as a crew chief, especially the days when he was crew chiefing, because you didn't have as much engineering help as as many people at the shop, kind of just giving you the best information, and then you can pick from it. Like he had to go out there and get the best information. He has a lot of good stories about kind of coming up the hard way, and I always imagined that it would be so challenging to have a family.
Yeah, for sure. No, I didn't spend a lot of time with Dad growing up. I had Sean Treadway and Nick Hutchins, my late model crew chiefs, Bandolero crew chiefs, that would take me up and down the road and take me racing, and never really had that father-son, let's go play ball in the backyard, moments with my dad. I wouldn't trade him for anything in the world. He's a good man, and he's taught me a lot about how to carry yourself and how to treat people, and hard work, obviously. But I can't imagine. Yeah, he was on the road a lot. I spent a lot of time with my two sisters and my mom, and we were always racing all the time. And so it's a huge sacrifice. I mean, we all go through it right now, being in racing, and you're married and have a daughter. I'm married. Greg's basically married.
I have a dog.
I'm pushing you to have kids.
I know.
He's got
That's
two.
all we talk about.
He's got two
like,
kids.
I do feel.
Every time Skip sees me, when you have a kid, man.
He just wants
Well, you
someone
live in the
to.
neighborhood right next to me. We just come over and play in the
Yeah,
park.
he just wants play dates.
I
with
feel-
that's
I-
all.
kids. That's right.
I feel like, though, to close this, that how nowadays Jimmy Johnson and Harvick and all them, they talk about how you moved here and they lived on Hornaday's couch. Well, now you are the modern day Hornaday's couch.
I think I am.
Brandon McReynolds' couch, Noah Gregson, Cole Custer, these kids that are coming here, and that you are going to be the one that they're talking about in 10 years.
I've never really thought of that. That's pretty cool. I don't know if I have. No offense to the boys, I don't know if I have the lineup at like Jimmy Johnson.
Well,
those
we
guys.
don't know yet.
We'll wait and see, but hopefully Noah and Cole keep doing a good job. And no, that's interesting because Hornaday, he's the man. He's one of the guys I always looked up to. So that's a good analogy. I appreciate that.
That is good.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Well,
We'll stick with that.
Heck yeah.
A whole
Modern day Hornaday.
Heck
7
yeah.
Just get him a
episodes.
truck ride.
That's right.
You should get a truck
Sponsored by Off Axis.
Hornaday was way
about
older
that.
than you when he got a truck ride.
Yeah, that's
so.
why I'm not giving up on
No.
it. Like who cares?
You're fine.
Age is just a number.
Everybody says Kyle Busch is whipping up on these old guys or these younger guys, but he was the youngest guy in the top 5 in one of those races.
This past race, Texas.
Yes.
I saw that stat.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like,
Hey, age don't matter.
You guys are making me feel good. I'm gonna make a comeback.
That's
man.
that's what this show's for.
Listen,
so
there's
glad-
only one thing that matters in racing. It ain't age. It's winning or losing.
That's
And
right.
if you're old and you can win, who cares?
That's
Yeah.
right.
All
I
right.
like that. We'll stick with that.
Well, on to the next one, I guess. Seven episodes. MRN hasn't fired us yet. It's been great.
They might fire you after this one.
Possibly. I don't think we didn't do
No,
too
we're
bad. We got to give a shout out to our buddy Dotes, dude. We haven't mentioned him in a while.
Goats, dude.
Our buddy from Australia keeps listening, so
He's our longest tenured listener.
He
3
is.
years.
Okay.
Glass Case and everybody, they think they've been doing this a long time. We got 3 years.
Brandon was one of our first guys.
Yes, you were.
Like,
I was the second. You guys had Corey on first.
yeah, your second
Yeah.
episode ever, so it's good to have you back.
First episode ever.
It's been nice.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thanks for catching up with us.
Thank you. I can't wait to come on again.